he has a case to answer to. He is facing serious charges of rape, sexual assault, operating as a medical practitioner without the proper documents, and being in the country illegally. A warrant of his arrest has been issued.
To discuss this issue further, we're now joined by Dr. Mvuyisi Mzukwa from the South African Medical Association. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, Peter, and to your viewers, and thanks for having me.
I have to confess, it feels like we've done this story many times before. Is the prevalence of bogus doctors something that is just with us constantly?
Yes, Peter. According to the HPCSA, just between 2021 and 2022, there are about 55 such doctors who were arrested, found to be practicing illegally in the country. And I'm sure those are not the only ones. There are many others who are hiding somewhere, in the busy urban areas, hiding in the corners. But also there are some who are in the rural areas where they believe that there is less inspection by the authorities.
How is it that they're able to get away with this? It sounds as if the authorities just don't have the resources.
It's possible that that is the case, because if you look at the, like you said earlier in your introduction, we've spoken about this before, and it looks like it just continuing with unabated. So I do believe that the issue of resources is a matter, and communities obviously are not empowered, as to what to do when they face how to detect these cases in the communities. So I do think that one of the things that we need to do, in fact, it's obvious we have to do it, is to make sure that communities are given a platform, clear platforms, on how to report such cases when they detect them, whether it's a police or HPCSA. But it has to be multi-sectoral approach. It can't be just police and the HPCSA.
How can innocent citizens like me tell the difference? I arrive at a clinic or at a GP's practice. How do I know if the person sitting in front of me is a real doctor or not?
Well, it is very important to, first of all, look at the conduct or listen to other people, what they're saying about the doctor, but also very important to make sure that before you go to a doctor, you must go to the HPCSA website and look for that doctor, in the registry. Because if that doctor is not in the registry, it tells you that that doctor is not meant to be practicing. So that's the first step that you do. But also there are other things that you can detect, other signs. Like, for example, doctors in this country are not allowed to advertise. So if you see a doctor who's advertising on the street poles and stuff like that, saying that he can cure all diseases, you must know that you are facing, there's a chance that you are facing a bogus doctor. And they usually prey on patients who are vulnerable in terms of those who are wanting to do abortions, those who are doing, who may be having, who are disadvantaged socio-economically. They may be looking for those vulnerable patients. Very important that, we make sure that we know our doctors, and if we are not sure, we ask the HPCSA, we report them to the police.
I just wonder, how much do we know about these bogus doctors? Are some of them with some medical training because I'm just trying to figure out how it is that they're able to run a practice so convincingly. Is it that maybe they're just not registered? For example, like this man from the DRC, could he have been a doctor back home but just failed to register in South Africa?
Well, there are many categories, Peter, of these doctors who are in the country. First of all, it would be those doctors, like I said earlier on, who are not trained at all, who have never had any training, who just put up, or maybe having incomplete training, just put up posters out there and tell communities that they can treat, and some of these may have fraudulently borrowed practice numbers or got practice numbers fraudulently, and some of them, of these doctors, they may operate as syndicates, and work in groups. Some of them, as you know, they may be qualified but unregistered. Maybe they were deregistered due to malpractice, but some of them, may have not even completed that training, or they are not registered with the HPCSA for some reason.
All right, so then there's another layer of checking, which could be a script going to a pharmacy. Do the pharmacies have no way of checking, or is there further fraud perhaps where practice numbers are used, are cloned, and even then are signatures not checked?
Well, like I said earlier on, Peter, this is a multi-sectoral approach. We should, all of us be working towards identifying these bogus doctors. Like you said, pharmacists have their role as well to look at the patient, at the doctor, whether that doctor really is registered. Because you can imagine, as a pharmacist, having to dispense medication, for a bogus doctor. So very important that all of us, in communities, even churches, everyone else, we should be out there, making sure that our communities are protected. When we see somebody that we suspect might be a bogus doctor, due to what I presented earlier on, it should not be difficult for us to report such a doctor to the nearest police station, or even try and find the website, on the HPCSA, and report those doctors to the HPCSA.
Needless to say, I mean, there's all sorts of concerns, but how dangerous is it to have these doctors out there?
Very dangerous, Peter. Very dangerous to the patients themselves or communities themselves. Because if you go to a bogus doctor, this doctor is not well trained, is not trained to treat patients. So what is going to happen may give you any medication. Some medication may even kill you because, they may not be proper medication for you. But if you are pregnant as well, if you are pregnant, you take that medication, it may kill the baby or it may kill both of you. You might have complications, like, for example, you might have heart problems and everything else. So very important, even reactions, to such medication that you are given by somebody who's not trained. So very important that to make sure that if we see a doctor, we see a proper doctor who is known, and a doctor who is whom we can trace, in terms of the registration. So it's not only the patients, but also communities, because you can imagine if that patient complicates, that patient will be taken to a state institution or even to a private hospital. So it means even economically, there is a danger that is being posed up by these bogus doctors.
Dr. Mzukwa, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for giving us a heads up. And I suppose our citizens really have to remain vigilant. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.